Hey guys, welcome to my channel. This is Casey Coach Christian Chaitanya. Today I will be talking about JavaScript objects. Well, objects in JavaScript are nothing but collection of properties and values. Now, the value of an object can also be a function, in which case this will be called a method. I will show you what I mean by objects. Let's go to the index.js file here, and inside index.js I am now declaring an object. To declare an object, what you need to do is you must have the var keyword followed by the name to the object. In this case, it will be obj. All right. Now there are two ways of populating an object, or you may also say populating can also be called as providing properties and values to the object. There are two different ways to do that. The first way is not inline. Now inline means while declaring only, I will be providing the properties and values. Now this name is a property, colon, this Casey is the value, and this name is a property to which the value Casey is assigned. All right, this is inline declaration. Now how to declare and how to populate an object not inline? To do that, let us consider another object, or let us take the same object. Now there is a property called name inside obj. Now say I want another property which is called age inside obj. To do that, you use the dot notation. Obj dot age is equal to 18, a numeric value 18. What this does is it creates a new property age inside the obj object and assigns the numeric value 18 to that property age. Okay, this can also be done. The dot notation can also be used to access the properties inside objects. Now watch me carefully. Now I want to access the name property of obj object. To do that, using the dot notation, obj.name. All right, now the value Casey will be logged to the console since I use the console.log method. As you can see, this log is the method of the console object. Just a minute. Hold on for a second. Now I am in the browser. If I go to the console and if I reload the page, you get the value Casey, which is the value assigned to the property name of the obj object. Now instead of always typing console.log to check whether the code functions properly or not, I will be typing directly into the console itself. Now I want to see the entire object. To see an entire object, I will simply type the object name. As you can see, using the dot notation, I added another property to the same object obj called age and assigned it a value of 18. So now inside object there are two properties, name and age, with values of Casey and 18 respectively. Now let's see the bracket notation. We can also access properties of object using bracket notation. Obj of square brackets. Let's add another property. No, let's access the age property. As you can see, the value 18 is here. All right. Note that for adding properties to an object, only the dot notation can be used. dot notation is comfortable, not used, it is comfortable. The dot notation is comfortable than the bracket notation. Now, as I defined an object before, the value of, as I told that the value of the property can also be a function, in which case it will be called a method. Now let's add a function as a property. Let's remove this, let's remove everything here. I'm going to take a new object called create object. This is going to be a function. So okay, wait, first let's see how the function can be assigned as a property. Let's take an object var object 1 is equal to inside the object 1 object, I have a property called write, which will be assigned to a function. So this is a function which is assigned to the property write. Now this is the hard-coded value. I'm showing this for example. Okay. Now let's use the write method. Now let's use the write method of the object 1 object. Just as console.log, I will be using object 1.write. Okay, now this write method also takes a property, also takes a parameter, which will be text. Object.write of hello. Now let's see in the browser. Hope this functions correctly. If I reload the page, you can see the value hello here. It functions as expected. So what I did was I assigned, let me repeat it once again. I assigned the function to the write property of the object 1 object. You got me? The name of the object is object 1. Inside that object, I have a property called write. And to that write method, I am assigning a function which takes in a parameter text and logs it to the console. Now after that, I am calling the write method of the object using the dot operator, using the dot notation, not operator, sorry. Using the dot notation, I'm calling the write method of the object, and inside that, in place of the parameter, I am passing the argument, the string hello. You can also pass in a number, object.write, object1.write of 7. If I go back to the browser and reload the page, you can see the value hello and 7 printed because I called the object 1 object 2 times, the write method 2 times. Okay. Now, the object itself can be placed inside a function. so that if there are numerous objects, the code, we will get the ability of code not repeating again and again. I will show you what I mean. So let's say I have a function here called called create object. Now inside this function, I will be creating an object. I will be populating this object or assigning values to the properties of the object using the dot notation. Let's say the name of this object will be obj. All right, obj is equal to this, the syntax for creating an object. Now let's populate it. Obj dot, let's say I have a property called location is equal to Canada. I have another property called area is equal to foreign. And let's say I have another property called status, which has the value of undergraduate. Okay. Now the function which holds the object must return the object in order to the function to work properly. The first line in line 2, what I did was I created an object. From line 3 to 5, I populated the object with some properties and values, and inside the line 6 I returned the object so that the object works, the code executes as expected. And on line 7 I closed the function. Now if I go back to the browser, but first, in order for the function to execute, I need to call the function. Let's call the function on a variable called person. Now what I did was, since it returns the object obj, the returned value obj is stored inside the variable person. Now if I go to the browser's console and access the person object, the person variable, let's see what happens. Just a minute. Seems like there is an error. I did not save the file here. Let's save the file. And now if I access the person variable, which stores the object, still there is an error, person not defined. Let's see what the error is. Just a minute, guys. There seems to be an error. Let me check it. Well, actually, what I did was I did not reload the page. I'm sorry about that. I did not reload the page. Now the reloading is done. Now if I access person, as you can see, the object person is printed to the console with the location Canada, area foreign, and status undergraduate. I'm sorry about the spelling. All right, now that is what happens. Now, whenever you want to create such type of object which has the location, area, and status, we can simply call the create object function. Now, let's say this function takes parameters, location, area, and status. In order to use these parameters inside the object, you don't need to use the this keyword. In JavaScript, the this is different from what you know from the languages like Java or C++. This is enough. The statement on line 3 tells the JavaScript interpreter to assign the location parameter, whatever is passed to the location parameter, to the location property of the obj object. Similarly, if I remove this foreign and type area there, the area, whatever is typed inside the area parameter, will be assigned to the area property of the obj object. Similarly, obj.status is equal to status. Now, since the function takes in arguments, let's give Alval here, and let's give the location Hyderabad, and status, let's give it graduate this time. Okay, since these are arguments and these are strings, let's wrap them in double quotes. If I save the page, go to the browser and reload and run this time, okay, there is no option if I right click. Now manually I will reload, and now if I access the person object, sorry, it is not prison, it is person, and you can see that these are the arguments that I have given to the function call create object. I called the create object function, and inside the parenthesis of the function call, I have given the arguments location as Alwal, area as Hyderabad, and status as graduate. Okay, now in every function, you need to create the object and you need to return the object. These two steps are common in any object which is wrapped inside a function. Well, JavaScript does this implicitly. You don't need to manually type var obj or return obj. This has something to do with the calling. Now, constructor mode, that is this type of calling is called calling in constructor mode. For calling in constructor mode, what you do is you use the new keyword, Okay, let's take the previous example. You use the new keyword here, new create object. Now, since I have used new here, what JavaScript does is it implicitly creates a variable called this and returns the variable at the end of the function. Now, this is what happens since it is implicit. Let me comment this. These two lines are done by the JavaScript this time. You don't need to externally create var obj or var or return obj. You don't need to do that. The JavaScript itself does that when you call the function in this manner. This is the constructor way of calling the method. Now, in order to recognize that this is the function which is called in constructor way, what the people learning JavaScript did was they used a capital letter at the beginning of the name of the function. Now, as you can see, this create object is, if I use capital C, the people who view my code understand that, okay, this create object is a method which is being called in the constructor. Let me change that here also. Okay. Now, since there is no object called obj, and this is implicitly created, we need to use this variable instead of obj variable, because now if I use obj dot location, there is no meaning to that. It gives us an error because there is no object called obj. We know that in constructor way of calling, the JavaScript interpreter implicitly creates this variable, as you can see on line 2. So since it creates this variable, we need to use it so that the function works properly in the constructor way of calling. Okay, now I've used this. Now there will be no change in the execution of the code. Let's go to the browser and reload and see whether everything works correctly or not. If I call the person object, everything works correctly. It is a create object constructor way, and which has the arguments of Alwal, Hyderabad, and graduate here. Now there are three ways. Let's talk about this reference for a while here. When you call a function normally, like for example, consider I have a function called write, which use the document or write method of hello. Now when you call this function, in every function there are two arguments, this reference and the normal arguments that you pass, like the normal arguments that you pass while function calling. Now if I call this write method here, in this case this reference points to the global object. Okay, the global object. When you call the normal function, when you call the function in normal way, the global object will be the window object, the where you are executing the where the code is ran and where it is displayed inside the Chrome. It is the window. The this refers to this window here, this JS tutorials window. The this refers to this window if you call the function normally. Now if I call the function through an object, as you saw earlier, if I call it this way, not this new, if I call it this way, okay, assume that this is also not there. I have explicitly created an obj object and I have written in the obj object. Now if I call it this way, what this reference points to is the newly created object. This reference points to the object itself. So in this case, the object is the return value of the object is storing in %. So this points to the %. All right, you got me? In this case, this points to the %. If I call the function with the new keyword or in the constructor way, this points to the newly created object. This points to the create object functions obj object in this case, and in this case this points to the create object. When we call new, we are telling the interpreter that I will be creating a new object which will be stored in the person variable, and I am using that. Okay, the using is not necessary here. The newly created object in this case is stored in the person variable. Now if I use new, this reference points to the newly created object which is stored in the person. If I don't use new, this function, this object obj is, this object itself is pointing to the this reference is pointing to the obj object itself. If I use the new, this object is newly created again, and this reference points to the newly created object. Okay, I hope you understand. Okay guys, that's all about objects. There is more. I will be telling you that in a later video. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like, share, comment, and do subscribe to my channel to see more videos, and also click that bell notification icon to get updates on my video. Thank you for watching. This is KC Krishna Chaitanya signing out.